Hey everyone, here's my first attempt at making glue-chipped glass. This is sort of a decorative glass that you might see in antique buildings as sort of a decorative or privacy style glass. And what's interesting is it's made by applying glue to flat glass and causing the glue to pull chips of glass off the surface, leaving this decorative finish. So let me show you how I did it. I've never done this technique before, so I wanted to try a few different things at once so that I could get an idea of what will work for me for an actual piece. So I chose one piece of glass that I wouldn't mask at all, one piece that I would mask with something very simple, and one piece that I would mask with something that had curves and finer details to it. From reading online, it seems that most people use asphalt varnish to cover the glass and then put like a vinyl stencil on top for fine masking. But I didn't have any asphalt varnish or a vinyl cutter here, so I'm just using masking tape. Before applying the glue to the glass, the surface needs to be roughened. Otherwise the glass will just pull off and not actually pull any chips of glass off. So traditionally, the best way that this is accomplished is with a sandblaster, which I happen to have, except my sandblaster is currently loaded with glass beads. And shooting glass beads at glass is not very effective because it's equal hardness. Ideally, I would need silicon carbide or alumina to shoot at the glass, and I don't have any of that. So I managed to get by a little bit. On the B, I used just glass grit in my sandblaster, and it worked kind of okay, but really it could have been a lot better. For the unmasked piece, I used a silicon carbide scribe, and if you don't have access to a sandblaster, it's still possible to do glue chipping, and you can roughen the surface of the glass with the scribe. Later we'll see that I didn't make the lines close enough together, but it still kind of worked well enough to test at least. I also used hydrofluoric acid on the square mask test piece, and the hydrofluoric acid leaves a very fine grain that's much finer than the sandblasting. The glue is shipped in sort of a dry granular form, and I measured out about 40 grams of glue and then 80 grams of cold water, and put these into a beaker and let it sit for about half an hour to an hour to let the water absorb. I then slowly heated the beaker on a hot plate up to 145 degrees F, and as the mixture is being heated, the viscosity goes way down. So it starts off as a fairly gelatinous sort of blob, and then as the heat comes up, it turns into a fairly runny liquid. It's probably, kind of like honey, but even a little bit lighter than honey at a fairly warm room temperature. The point is that it's so runny, you'll need to build a little dam of tape or some other material around your glass, or else the stuff will run off the edge. And you actually need a thick enough coat. You need about a 1/16 of an inch or more of this glue on the glass in order to make the chipping work correctly. So you'll definitely need something to actually hold the glue in place, like a little dam around the stencil. As the glue cools down, it becomes thick very quickly. So even after 10 or 20 minutes, the glue is gelatinous enough again where it doesn't really need the dam for support. So I peeled all that away and left the coated glass to sit around and dry, and that's basically it. Some people will say, oh, you need a fan or you need a dehumidifier box, and I think if you live in a very humid climate that might be true. But here in California the humidity is probably 30% or lower, and so I just left them sitting around in my shop. Another thing to remember is that the glue chips will come flying off the front of the glass, so what I did is I put them face down in a shallow pan just to catch the glue chips and glass chips that come off of there. Also, if you have dogs or cats around, be aware that they're very attracted to the scent of the glue chipping glue because it's animal hide glue. So you would want to keep them away from the area where you're having the glass chip off, because they might try to eat the glue chips that have glass embedded in them. My pieces were done in about a day, and the glue came off pretty easily. I just used a brush to push most of it off, and then the rest of it comes off very easy in just warm water under the tap. The unmasked piece worked kind of okay. I should have put more scribe lines on there so that the glue chip pattern would have been sort of denser. Right now you can still see a lot of the scribe lines, and that's, kind of cool, but not really what I was going for. The partially functional sandblasted one was sort of okay as well. There were some areas where the glue still didn't adhere. So it seems like glue adhesion is sort of the biggest problem facing me here. The acid etched glass didn't chip at all. I'm not really sure if this is because the glue had too many bubbles in it, or the layer wasn't thick enough, or if just acid etching provides not enough adhesion or too much or something, but it didn't work, so I probably wouldn't ever do that again. I think for my next piece I'll actually get alumina and load that into my sandblaster and do a proper stencil and shoot that. I'll put some links into the description that show how good this stuff can look when done properly. Another neat technique is to silver the glass once it's been glue chipped, and you can make some really cool, classy looking sort of mirrored pieces with that. Okay, hope that was interesting. See you next time. Bye.